Hello everybody and welcome back to another Punishing Grey Raven video. Let's get into it, shall we? Now, I have just finished playing through the fake Ascension story. I did start it off originally in the more expected way to play through it in the explore mode, which is where you kind of jump between these maps. There's a mini maze game that you kind of have to do in the different areas to explore different parts of the story and unlock the combat levels. And it was really interesting. It was a really neat mechanic and it was definitely a different way to explore the story. But it was taking a long time to get through the story, and so after completing the first chapter, I did switch to the normal mode. And the normal mode is how you can explore the story just like the other chapters before it, where you've got it all kind of laid out in these stages. So overall, I do want to say that those new mechanics and stuff that's mixed in there, I really like that because it did elevate the experience overall. It definitely made the story chapter in and of itself a little more engaging, especially seeing as this is a very, very, very text-heavy story chapter. And that's where I kind of start getting into the mixed emotions about Fake Ascension itself. From a narrative perspective, I really like this chapter. There's a lot of story elements that come together that have been set up in previous chapters, some reckonings that come for certain characters, and this kind of like, climax point in certain character plot lines that we've been waiting to experience and see, pertaining to the Lucias, pertaining to Luna, and some of the other Ascendants as well. And I have probably close to 4 hours of gameplay of me going through the entire story, reading through all of it, and playing through all the combat chapters. That's probably never going to see the light of day. Reason being, it's just so much just text. It is so much text to read through. If you were to weigh the actual combat stages versus the narrative, light novel text stages, it's like gotta be somewhere in the realm of 90% to 10%, maybe even higher. Yeah, so much of this story chapter is just straight light novel text. Like there was long stretches of story that there was no gameplay at all. I believe it's in the Shadow Companion stage. Like, look at this. You basically go from Master of Ceremony and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 light novel story chapters, and that is a lot. It was so much reading, like literal hours of reading. And if you like the story, that's going to be fine for you and you're going to enjoy it and it will be fun to experience that narrative. If you're here for the action gameplay, you probably hated this chapter, the whole story. Like it was just so absolutely text heavy. And while some of the combat missions that did come, you get to do some trial stages with Lucia Plume. There's some really fun boss fights and stuff mixed in there as well. If you're not here for the story, you did not like this. Like I said, that ratio between the amount of story to combat is so egregious. This, I'm sure, was definitely a divisive chapter for people just because of that. And it was probably really tough for some people to get through it. Again, if you're a story lover like me, you actually are enjoying the narrative of Punishing Grey Raven, you probably really enjoyed it overall. Like there were certain parts of the story that actually got me kind of emotional, where we got to learn more about the backstories of some characters, how they are the way they are, and they leave it on a good hook that really makes you interested in the continuation of the game. One thing that I'm incredibly frustrated with, if I'm going to be honest though, and this is more of a technical thing as opposed to a narrative thing, is as you can see here, it's kind of mixed up, but in terms of my completion percentages on the normal stages, I've got it basically 100%ed, but on the explore mode, I've only got it up to 100% and 25% because this completion percentage is only tracked on the exploration mode. So even though I completed the story in the normal mode, it is not counting it as completed from a gameplay completion perspective, which is really annoying. So I got to go back through and re-explore that maze, which I'm not gonna lie, that's incredibly frustrating, seeing as how many hours I've already put into the game at this point, and this story chapter in particular, and now I don't even have the choice to move on to the next imprisoned site. Oh, Wait a minute. We just found out in real time it's because I need to do these hidden chapters of Echo Aria, which, I've heard some really exciting things about Echo Aria. And I got to finish this last chapter too in Kowloon. But I digress. I'm going to take that part back. I actually mixed that part up. That's on me. But I'll probably still end up 100%ing it anyway. Sorry if this video seems like kind of a mess. I'm literally just speaking completely off the cuff here. I have not processed my thoughts, and I'm kind of externally processing with you right now as I'm kind of like digesting this story. So let me just wrap it all up with this. If I'm grading this chapter on a story level, probably going to give it like a 7 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, comparing it to the early game chapters, which I'd call like a 3. So like it's definitely a significant improvement from that. So really liking it and really excited for the next chapters of the game. If I'm rating it from a gameplay perspective, in the missions themselves, they're fun. It does a great job at tying in some of the combat to what's going on in the story. They let you trial characters so you can feel more immersed in it. And that maze game mode, while some people may not really like that, I like that overall because it being so story heavy, it gave you a little bit of something to do in between. And for being a free game, there's a ton of content here. From an overall chapter perspective though, there is way too much text to gameplay. There's just, like I said, literal hours of reading. And if you're here to actually like play a game, it's really tough. I'm very much a believer in show, don't tell. And they do at a couple stages and a couple key points later on in the story, they do show and not tell, and they give you actual choices. And I was so excited when I got to that because I had just been slogging through text the whole time. Look, that's where I'm going to call it here, guys. I would love to know your thoughts on this. I know people playing on the CN side, you would have played this chapter a long time ago, so maybe you don't remember. But for global players, this wasn't that long ago. It was only a few patches ago. From like a story perspective, like, this is chapter 13 and we only just released chapter 18. So it really wasn't that long ago for other global players. So I started late. So if you're a more experienced global player, let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you think of the Fake Ascension chapter? I would love to hear that. And if you feel very different than I do, maybe you love the amount of story because you're a story lover, like, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for just listening to me rant for a little bit and kind of processing this. Like I said, I've got, 4 hours of footage and gameplay that's probably never going to see the light of day now. But you know what? It was still great. And I would very much encourage you guys to experience the story yourself if you haven't gone through it, even though it's a little bit longer. That's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.